Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to finish off this week with the creator request, which is where a band gets in contact with me and asks me to check out their music. It's a really fantastic resource for finding new and upcoming music. Today we have a band called WINDS BROUGHT SIBERIA. It says some time ago we found your YouTube channel and we really appreciate the content you create. We'd love for you to watch our new music video for the song Siberia and hear your feedback. Maybe you could create some content with it, maybe some reaction. Thank you for your hard work. Cheers, Winds Brought Siberia. So we're going to listen to the track Siberia from the band Winds Brought Siberia and see what's going on. Let's dig into it. A bit of an ominous opening, but getting right into this. Interesting. I like the bright guitar lines contrasting with the growls here. Alright, we got a bit of a breakdown. And once again, we have this higher end guitar line sitting above everything else. Ooh, a little bit of a punk feel in the drums. Yeah, some layering there. Yeah, chilling with that syncopated bass kick, bringing in some groove for this guitar solo. Guitar solo went into I thought we were gonna go to a new section, but no, that's the end of the track. All right. Yeah, very cool. So we have it's an interesting combination that I don't hear too often that I'm enjoying here is that we have these growls almost. I suppose maybe they're not. They might be fries. They might just be a really low fry. I'm not sure. But we have those with the really aggressive drumming and the chordal stuff on the rhythm guitar, the bass mostly playing the root note of whatever the guitar is playing, the rhythm guitar, and all of that would kind of lead itself to kind of being a little cookie cutter there. And it really is having this melody line in the guitar pretty much in every single section of the song that I think elevates the band a little bit, having that melodic element there. I don't think there would be anything wrong with the song if it was purely just that textural, rhythmic stuff going on with the chords and then the singer over it. There's a lot of music out there like that. But just like I said, having that guitar playing the lead line against everything else and having the mix to sort of give it that semi spot. It's sharing the spotlight with the vocals, I think, which is an interesting way to go about this. It doesn't really give either of these instruments more prominence, although the vocals are center panned. But it doesn't really give either one of them a strong prominence in the spotlight. It allows both of them to be showcased simultaneously, which I think is kind of aided by the fact that the vocals are more rhythmic and the guitar is more melodic. And so they can both coexist in the spotlight and in the lead element there without really stepping on each other's toes or getting in each other's way. And I think it just comes together really well. But it also introduces an interesting vibe. So I think if we had taken the guitar out, we would have a song that would feel heavier and darker than it does now with the guitar line in it. The guitar brings a brightness, it elevates the track, it provides almost a bit of a fun sound to some of the more serious elements that we see throughout the rest of the track. And the drums, they kind of get, it's kind of a contagious thing when the drums come in not too long after with with that sort of punk drum pattern. And it completely flips the ending of the song to have more of this punky, fun vibe to it. I think it's funny how it starts out as just a guitar and it kind of passes that idea over to another instrument. But yeah, so a lot of this song though is sort of this grounded, rooted seriousness with this levity being provided by the guitar, and it provides a melodic element for the lead, whereas the vocals provide more of a rhythmic element in a lead voice, and they come together and just kind of lead the song with this half rhythmic, half melodic concept. And I do I love it. It's an interesting combination for sure. But I think the part that really solidified this concept for me was the solo section. So we had a bit of a breakdown and it goes into the solo part, and the guitarist plays a few eighth notes, I think, 16th notes, and then goes to a tapping idea. Coming out of the tapping idea, the guitarist continues the solo. We have more melody line here. It's not riffing like we had heard previously. There is a linearity to what the guitar is doing, but the vocalist comes in alongside it and finishes out the song with the guitar solo playing next to him. And I think that is just really cool. It's something that I don't think we see too often, but I really enjoy, is removing some of the segmentation from songs. A lot of tracks we have, verse, chorus. These are very segmented ideas. The guitar solo is its own little section. We've even seen songs where the guitar solo gets its own key. I feel like I've been talking about that more and more recently. I don't know if I'm just realizing it more or if I'm being presented with songs that do that more often, but it's something I'm seeing more and more. And I think it's interesting that it's not even just segmented in its own area, right? Because it's also in the bridge, which means it's going to have its own unique background idea. Occasionally we'll hear the verse come in, whatever the guitar was doing during the verse, but I think it's equally as often we'll hear a brand new section for the guitar to solo over before coming back into a chorus to finish the song out. So it's segmented not even just not even just within itself as being its own section, but it's segmented against the rest of the song as having a different vibe or sometimes even a completely different key. So to hear a guitar section that the breakdown bleeds into and then it bleeds into the outro is just, it's really cool to see these walls being broken down. To have a song that feels a bit more natural in the flow and progression from start to finish. I do kind of wish that these ideas extended into the guitar solo. I don't think it was bad, but it did feel a bit stiff. Um, we had what 4 8 bars of the eighth note playing, and then we went into 4 or 8 bars of the tapping, and then after that we went into the next idea, and it's just this really rigid feeling of we're doing this, then we're doing this, and it also needed just a little bit more. What I would say is dynamic work. I don't think that there's a problem with the way that it's done here. Other it emulates a lot of guitar solos that I've heard. I think it fits fine for being a metal guitar solo, but I think if you really want to push yourself into that next level and be a musical storyteller, there needs to be more direction and flow and dynamic elements in the solo itself and the melody. Play around with different note lengths. We went from, actually, I think they were the same. They were eighth note that were being strummed and then eighth notes that were being tapped, if I remember correctly. So we really didn't even change anything rhythmically there. But even if we do this idea where we do, eighth note strums and then 16th note taps or sweeps or something like that, like we speed it up, we're still looking at segmented areas that have a lack of a lack of change to the movement. Right? It is 4 bars of this one speed. We are hearing a note on every half of a beat, and when we move to the next one, we're hearing a note on every quarter of a beat. And there just needs to be a little bit more diversity to it to allow these to feel more natural. To give them that storytelling element and have some dynamic elements to the rhythmic structure of it. I mean, think about it. Take away the notes, all right? And let's just look at the rhythmic structure. If we're working with eighth notes, is that entertaining? And even if we are doing sixteenths, it's not entertaining. There needs to be more dynamic element in the rhythmic structure. I don't think that there's a problem with the melodic flow. I like the way that both sections kind of flowed melodically. The notes chosen, when they went up, when they went down, how far up, how far down, the note choices themselves I think were fine, and they told a nice little story. It kind of went along well with the other melodies that we had seen previous to this. I think it all flowed into a nice idea if we look at all the melodies in the song as a whole. It just wasn't very interesting melodically, and when it comes to electric guitars, that's kind of one of the few dynamics you have the ability to control. Unless you have a volume pedal, you're not playing with volume dynamics. And you can play around with attack, getting a nice staccato or legato, and you kind of did that here where you shifted from picking to hammer-ons and pull-offs, the tapping part. You went from something a bit more staccato to something a bit more legato. But it would also be nice to sort of incorporate this into the melodic phrasing itself rather than segmenting it to specific sections. And Winds Brought Siberia, if you're watching this, especially the guitarist, if you're watching this, this isn't something that I want to specifically single you out. I bring this up often when it comes to guitar solos because I do feel like rock and metal guitar solos are just a bit boring. And I don't want that to be this huge negative, right? Like I mentioned earlier in this little criticism, you're emulating a lot of guitar solos that I've heard doing this channel. So I don't think there's anything wrong particularly with what you're doing. But I do think that rock and guitar solos as a whole lack dynamics and they are just far too rigid. And I have spoken about this before. I don't think in as much depth. So yeah, this is not specifically aimed at you, guitar player for Winds Brought Siberia. Like I said, I think overall the guitar solo matches what you have been doing previously, and I don't think there's anything really bad about it. It just isn't great. It could be elevated. And it's, again, not something I think is specific to your solo. It's more of just what I've viewed in rock and metal solos as a whole. There are certainly some outliers that I have seen, and I have certainly praised their ability to craft a strong melody. The first one that comes to mind is the guitar solo in I Return to Nothingness, I think is what it's called, from Lorna Shore. It was actually a huge surprise, but I absolutely loved the melodic flow and storytelling in that solo. Every bit of it felt natural, and there was a great dynamic element to it. I don't think every solo needs to be like that, but I do get a little bored hearing solos that stick with one note structure for an elongated period of time. I feel kind of bad putting this rant about guitar solos in general in this creator request, but I guess that's what happened. But overall, I really enjoyed what was going on here. Like I said, I really like that levity and sort of brightness that the lead guitar line brings to a lot of this otherwise more standard post-hardcore kind of sound musically, as well as the way that it shares the spotlight with the vocals. I think the song comes together very well, and I can see a very bright future for this team. I don't know how far this is. Maybe this is their first album. Yeah, not sure, but I do see a bright future, and if this is a first album, I think it's a fantastic foundation to expand upon for sure. Can't wait to see you guys at the top of some metal playlists in a few years. So those are my thoughts, though, on Winds Brought Siberia's Siberia. Let me know what you thought. Let me know if you agree with me about the guitar solo. It could just be me being a bit pretentious, unfortunately. I try my best to abide by, my tagline, be critical, not cynical. And I really try to approach this without cynicism and just speak about what I personally look for. But I kind of know that I'm trying to approach metal through a classical lens, and sometimes that might be unfair to metal and rock. So call me out if you think I'm in the wrong here, definitely. Or especially, if you just agree. If you don't think I'm wrong, but you definitely disagree, let me know in the comments. Above the comment section, there's a description box, and there's a link for Linktree, which will take you to this menu. It's got all sorts of stuff for me. There's also links for Winds Brought Siberia in the description box if you'd like to see anything else that they've done or check out their socials. Above the description box, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. And that wraps it up for today. We'll be back next week on Monday, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC. We'll be looking at deep cuts, which is basically those songs that don't get talked about too often from the big bands. The stuff that's not the singles and the top hits and stuff like that. The ones on the album that you think are really the best that just nobody talks about. That's what we'll be looking at. Until next time, remember to be critical but not cynical of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.